All right, let's talk about one of the most important and honestly one of the most misunderstood parts of SEO, getting your website properly indexed by Google. Because, let's face it, if Google can't find you, nothing else you do even matters.
So you did it. You poured hours, maybe weeks, into building an amazing website with fantastic content. You hit publish, and you wait for the visitors to come flooding in. But crickets. It feels like you're shouting into the void. Well, that huge frustration often isn't about your content at all. It's usually a technical problem that's hiding in plain sight.
And this right here is the key thing you gotta remember. Just because your website exists, that doesn't mean Google just rolls out the red carpet and gives you a spot in its search results. Nope. You have to earn it. You have to prove your site is worth including by playing by some very specific technical rules.
Okay, so before your page can even think about hitting that #1 spot, it has to get past this critical checkpoint. First, Google has to discover your page. We call that crawling. But then it has to make a decision. Should we add this page to our massive library? That decision, that's indexing.
And look, if your page isn't indexed, it simply cannot rank. It's that simple. It's like writing a brilliant book, but the library decides to just leave it in a box in the basement instead of putting it on the shelves. For anyone searching, it basically doesn't exist. Indexing is step one, everything else comes after that. So, how in the world do you know if your book is actually on the shelf? Well, the first step is a pretty simple checkup. You need to compare a list of all the pages on your website with what Google Search Console says it is indexed. And that gap between those two lists, that's where the real detective work starts. And what you'll probably find is a pretty big gap. On one side, you've got every single page you've built. And on the other, you have the fraction of those pages that Google has actually decided are worthy of its index. That gap, that's not just a number, it represents lost traffic, missed opportunities, and a whole lot of wasted effort. So what's going on here? Why are these important pages just missing? Well, it usually comes down to a few usual suspects. Poor internal linking means Google's little spider bots can't find their way to your content. Thin or duplicate content tells Google, this isn't very valuable, I'm not going to waste my time on it. And sometimes you've accidentally put up a technical do not enter sign. But it's not just about what's missing. It's also about what's in the index that really shouldn't be. When these kinds of low-value pages sneak in, they're basically wasting Google's time and resources, and that can actually water down the authority of your really important pages. The goal here is laser-focused. Get only your best, most valuable pages into that index.
Right, so managing what shouldn't be there is just as crucial as getting your good stuff in. And this brings us to one of the most powerful tools in your toolbox, the canonical tag. It is your way of telling Google, hey, you might find a few different versions of this page, but this one right here, this is the official one, the master copy.
Think of it like this. Say you have a product page that comes in 5 different colors. You could end up with 5 different URLs. The canonical tag tells Google, hey, all that good stuff, all the ranking power, funnel it all to this one main URL. It gives you control and stops Google from getting confused. But when you mess this up, things can go south fast.
So what happens when a single page has multiple canonical tags pointing to different URLs? You're sending completely mixed signals. And when Google gets confused like that, it often just throws its hands up, ignores everything you're trying to tell it, and sometimes it just boots the page from the index altogether.
And the rule here is super simple and super strict. A canonical tag has to point to a live, healthy 200 OK page. That's it. If you point it to a page that redirects, or even worse, a broken 404 page, you're telling Google the master copy of this page is, well, it's broken. Google's just going to ignore that signal, and then who knows what it'll decide to index.
And look, the details really matter here. You should always use the full absolute URL in your canonical tags. A relative URL, the one on the left, can sometimes be misinterpreted by crawlers. The absolute URL on the right leaves absolutely no room for error. It's just the right way to do it.
All right, now let's get into the really scary stuff. These are the instructions that act like a giant flashing keep out sign for Google. They are explicit commands that can stop your SEO efforts dead in their tracks. And the worst part is, you might not even know they're there. This right here, this single line of code is not a suggestion. It is a direct command to Google that says, do not index this page, period. If this little tag accidentally ends up on one of your most important pages, and believe me, it happens more often than you think, that page will just vanish from search results. But that meta robots tag has a stealthier, much more dangerous cousin, the X-robots tag. See, the meta tag is right there in the HTML of your page, so you can find it. But the X-robots tag? It's hidden away in the server header. It's so easy to miss, and a single server rule could apply it to your entire website, wiping out your visibility overnight.
And that's why an X-robots tag you don't know about is one of the absolute most damaging things you can have. It's a silent killer. It quietly removes your pages from Google's index, and you're just left scratching your head wondering, where did all my traffic go?
So at the end of the day, here's what it all boils down to. You can do all the keyword research, write the best content in the world, and build amazing links, but none of it, literally none of it matters if your pages aren't properly indexed. Getting your book onto Google's library shelf is the absolute, non-negotiable foundation of all SEO.
So I'll leave you with this one crucial question. Now that you've seen how easy it is to mess these signals up, from broken canonicals to these hidden no-index tags, are you absolutely certain that your website isn't accidentally telling its most important visitor, Google, to just go away?